The red veil hanging over my face was suffocating, a heavy silk barrier between me and a destiny I certainly hadn't signed up for. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling in my lap, trying to process the sheer insanity of my situation. After a lifetime of catastrophic bad luck, dying on my 24th birthday should have been the end of it. But no, the universe had a twisted sense of humor. I had opened my eyes not in the afterlife, but inside the pages of a melodramatic novel called Vale of Tears, dressed in a bridal gown, waiting for a husband who was practically on his deathbed. System, I hissed under my breath, my voice barely audible. You have got to be kidding me. I am a man. How am I supposed to be a joy-bringer bride for the young master? The mechanical voice of the system echoed in my head, devoid of sympathy. Host's mission is to replace the heroine and marry the secondary male lead, Richard. Once Richard dies of natural causes, the host may return to his original world. Wait for him to die. I choked out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. That's morbid. And you're ignoring the biological reality here. If he tries to consummate this marriage, he's going to find out very quickly that I am not his intended bride, Lily. The host must maintain the disguise, the system replied coolly. If the secondary male lead attempts intimacy, you must find a way to refuse without revealing your identity. And if I fail, termination. Great, I muttered. Just great. Before I could argue further, the sound of heavy wooden doors creaking open silenced me. Footsteps approached, but they weren't the confident strides of a groom eager to claim his bride. They were uneven, shuffling, accompanied by the wheezing sound of labored breathing. A harsh, wet cough tore through the silence of the room. That had to be Richard. The man sounded like he was about to collapse. An older woman's voice, likely a nurse or a nanny, spoke up, filled with concern. Master Richard, please, your health is paramount. Perhaps we should return to your own chambers to rest. The ceremony has exhausted you. I perked up beneath the veil. Yes, listen to the woman. Go sleep somewhere else. No, a voice replied. It was weak, raspy, but possessed a surprising underlying firmness. If I do not sleep in my wife's room on our wedding night, the servants will gossip. It will shame her. My heart sank. He was trying to be a gentleman. Why did he have to be a gentleman? But sir, the hour is late, Richard interrupted gently. You may all leave. Yes, Master Richard. The door clicked shut, plunging the room into a heavy silence. I watched through the gap beneath the red silk as a pair of embroidered boots moved closer, step by agonizing step. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. The mattress dipped as he sat down beside me. A pale hand reached out, grasping the edge of the veil. I clenched my fists, digging my nails into my palms. The silk was lifted away. I blinked against the sudden light, looking up into the face of the man who was now my husband. I had read the descriptions in the book, but the reality was striking. Richard was undeniably handsome, with a bone structure that could cut glass and eyes that held a profound, melancholic depth. But he was ghost pale, his lips almost colorless, and his frame was so slight beneath his wedding robes that he looked as if a strong gust of wind would shatter him. He looked at me, his gaze traveling over my face, and then offered a weak, gentle smile. Madam, he whispered, shall we rest? He leaned in. Panic exploded in my brain. System, help me. Do something. Good luck, host. The system chirped and promptly vanished. As Richard's face loomed closer, mere inches away, instinct took over. I scrambled backward, crab-walking across the mattress until I fell off the other side with a thud. Richard's eyes widened in shock. He looked hurt, his hand frozen in midair. I scrambled to my stand, laughing nervously, smoothing down the unfamiliar skirts of my dress. The wine, I stammered, pointing frantically at the table. We haven't drunk the nuptial wine yet. It's bad luck to skip it. I rushed to the table, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the porcelain pitcher. I poured 2 cups, splashing a bit on the tablecloth, and thrust one toward him. Richard watched me for a long moment, a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. He probably thought I had poisoned it. Given his family's wealth, he was likely used to assassination attempts. To prove it was safe, I lifted my own cup to my lips. Wait, he said softly. He stood up, his movements slow and fluid, and crossed the room. He took the cup from my hand, his fingers brushing against mine. His skin was ice cold. Then, Unexpectedly, he linked his arm through mine. "To us," he said, his eyes locking onto mine. Up close, his eyelashes were incredibly long. He had the kind of beauty that made you want to protect him, a fragile elegance that was mesmerizing. I found myself staring. Lucas, a 24-year-old man, was blushing at the sight of another man. "My wife," he prompted. "Right," I squeaked. "To us." We drank. The wine was strong, burning a path down my throat. Richard finished his cup and set it down, his cheeks flushing a faint, unhealthy pink from the alcohol. "Now," he murmured, stepping into my personal space, "we should rest." He reached for the sash of my robe. "No," I shouted, slapping his hands away. He froze. "Madam." I backed up until I hit the wall, my mind racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I needed an excuse. A woman's excuse. What was the one thing that stopped all intimacy in these situations? I can't. I stammered, my face burning. It's the time of the month. My visitor has arrived." Richard blinked, looking confused. He glanced at the door, then back at me. A visitor? But the guards would have stopped anyone at the gate. "Did you hear someone?" "No." I waved my hands frantically. My monthly cycle. The curse. The red tide. Understanding finally dawned on his face. "Oh," he said softly, a flush creeping up his neck. "I see. My apologies, I misunderstood." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Yes. Very inconvenient. So, no bloodbaths tonight." He turned away, coughing lightly into his fist to hide his embarrassment. "Of course. I will call for the maid." "Why?" I asked, alarmed. "To bring you comfort," he said delicately. He opened the door and whispered something to his personal maid, Polly. Minutes later, Polly returned with a bowl of steaming, dark liquid. My stomach churned. In the novels, a bride having her period on the wedding night was bad luck. Was this poison? Was he going to kill me for ruining the mood? "Master Richard is so thoughtful," Polly whispered to me as she set the bowl down. "He ordered brown sugar and ginger water for you personally. It wasn't poison. It was sugar water." I looked at Richard, who was sitting by the window, pretending to read a book upside down. He wasn't angry. He was caring for me. A pang of guilt struck my chest. This man was dying, and I was lying to him about everything. My name, my gender, my intentions. I drank the sweet, spicy water, feeling the warmth spread through my limbs. "Thank you," I said genuinely. "Rest," he said without looking up. "I will sleep on the divan." That night, I lay in the massive bed, listening to the rhythmic, wheezing breathing of the man across the room. "My name is Lucas. I grew up in an orphanage, abandoned and unwanted. My life had been a series of unfortunate events. At 5, I choked on a dumpling and nearly died. At 7, I fell into a river. At 13, I was kidnapped and taken across the border before being rescued. At 19, a car missed me by inches. And at 23, the doctors found the tumor. I thought dying was the final punchline. But now I was here, inhabiting the body of a man named Lucas Miller, though in this world, I was supposed to be his sister, Lily. The plot of Vale of Tears was a tragedy. Lily Miller, the heroine, was in love with a poor scholar named Julian. Her parents, greedy and cruel, sold her to the wealthy Gu family to marry their sixth son, Richard, hoping for a massive inheritance. Lily eloped with Julian. To save face and keep the money, the parents drugged their son, me, dressed him as a bride, and shipped him off. In the original story, the brother escapes halfway. The parents are furious. They catch Lily, and she is forced to marry Richard anyway. She becomes a miserable widow. But I didn't escape. I was here. And now, I had to protect this secret with my life. The next morning, I woke to the sensation of eyes boring into my skull. I cracked one eyelid open to find a severe-looking woman standing over the bed, glaring at me with the intensity of a drill sergeant. "Good morning," I mumbled, instinctively pulling the blanket up to my chin. "It is not a good morning," the woman snapped. "You are late. The old madam is waiting for her tea. Get up." I sat up, rubbing my eyes. "And you are?" "I am Agatha," she declared, puffing out her chest. "The old madam's head maid. I have been assigned to look after you." "Ah, Agatha. The villainous maid from the book." She hated the heroine because she thought a country girl wasn't good enough for her precious young master. In the original text, she made Lily's life a living hell with pinchings, scoldings, and sabotage. Well, Agatha, I yawned, stretching my arms, and forgetting for a second that I was supposed to be a graceful lady. If you don't want to serve me, you don't have to. I'm pretty low maintenance. Agatha's eyes narrowed. Don't think you can order me around just because you married into the family. You are nothing but a purchase. Before I could retort, the door opened, and Richard walked in, looking slightly more rested than the night before. Agatha's demeanor changed instantly. She threw herself toward the floor, but in doing so, she lunged toward me as if to help me up. I saw the malicious glint in her eye. She was going to pinch me. Reflexes honed by a lifetime of dodging cars and falling objects kicked in. I shoved my hands out. Whoa there! I shouted. I pushed her. Hard. Agatha flew backward like a rag doll, sailing a good 3 feet through the air before crashing into the antique wardrobe with a resounding thud. Silence filled the room. Even I was impressed by my own strength. Agatha scrambled to her feet, tears instantly springing to her eyes. She threw herself at Richard's feet. Master Richard. Master Richard. Look at her. She attacked me. I was only trying to help her dress, and she struck me. She is violent and unhinged. I froze. This was it. The moment the husband sides with the faithful servant. I decided to play the game. I lowered my head, burying my face in my hands, and let out a loud, wavering sob. Oh, husband. I was so terrified. She came at me with such a scary face. I thought an assassin had entered the room. I was only trying to defend myself. Richard looked from the wailing maid to his weeping wife. He walked over to me, sitting on the edge of the bed and wrapping a thin arm around my shoulders. Agatha, he said, his voice cold as ice. You frightened my wife. But master, she threw me. My wife is a delicate flower, Richard stated with a straight face. Look at her. She is trembling. How could she possibly throw a woman of your sturdy stature across the room? I peeked through my fingers. Richard was lying through his teeth for me. Leave us, Richard commanded. You will go to the courtyard and sweep the leaves until sunset. Agatha fled, sobbing. When the door closed, Richard looked at me. I slowly lowered my hands. He wasn't buying the tears, but he was smiling. A delicate flower? I asked, raising an eyebrow. A very strong flower, he corrected, amusement dancing in his eyes. You have a powerful arm, madam. She startled me. I said defensively. I have reflex issues. I see. He stood up. I will have Polly help you dress. We must greet my mother. No, I blurted out. If Polly helped me dress, she'd see that I didn't have the requisite parts to be a wife. I'm shy. I prefer to dress myself. Richard paused, then nodded. As you wish. I will wait in the garden. Getting dressed was a nightmare. The layers of silk, the intricate ties, the corset-like undergarments. It was an engineering puzzle. But the real disaster was the hair. I stared at my reflection in the bronze mirror. My hair was long, thanks to the historical setting, but I had no idea how to construct the complex chignons required of a married woman. I gave up and decided to focus on makeup. I grabbed a pot of rouge. I'd seen girls do this in tutorials. How hard could it be? 10 minutes later, Richard walked back in. Madam, we are extremely late. He stopped. He stared. I turned to him, grinning. Ready. My face looked like a crime scene. I had applied the rouge with the subtlety of a clown, and the eyebrow charcoal was smeared across my forehead. Richard pressed his lips together. His shoulders shook. What? I asked. Is it too much? He couldn't hold it back. He burst out laughing, a genuine, bright sound that seemed to surprise even him. You look terrifying, he managed to say. I pouted. I'm not good at this. He walked over, wiping tears of mirth from his eyes. Sit down. He took a wet cloth and gently wiped my face clean. His touch was incredibly tender. Then, he picked up the eyebrow pencil. Close your eyes, he whispered. I felt the soft scratch of the charcoal, the brush of the rouge. He worked with the focus of an artist. His breathing was heavy, and I could hear the faint wheeze in his chest, but his hands were steady. Open. I looked in the mirror. The person staring back was beautiful. He had accentuated my eyes, making them look softer, and the color on my lips was perfect. You're good at this, I murmured. I used to paint, he said quietly, a shadow passing over his face. Before my hands became too weak to hold the brush for long. Now, I only paint my wife. My heart did a strange flip-flop. Thank you, Richard. We were late to see the old madam, of course. She was furious. She was a stern, imposing woman who clearly thought her son had married beneath him. She assigned Agatha, who had returned from leaf sweeping, to teach me etiquette. The next few weeks were a blur of torture. Agatha made me walk with a bowl of water on my head, sit for hours without moving, and embroider ducks that looked more like mutated potatoes. Every time it got too much, I ran to Richard. Husband, I would cry, bursting into his study where he practiced calligraphy. Agatha is trying to kill me with boredom. Richard would inevitably send Agatha away, claiming he needed me to grind his ink or read to him. We fell into a rhythm. I told him stories about the outside world, disguised as folktales, describing cars as iron carriages without horses and airplanes as giant metal birds. He listened with wide, hungry eyes. He had been trapped in this estate his whole life, a prisoner of his own failing body. One afternoon, feeling particularly stifled, I convinced Richard to sneak out. We took a carriage to the city market. It was bustling, colorful, and alive. Richard looked at everything with wonder. We were looking at a stall selling sugar figures when a shadow fell over us. Well, a greasy voice sneered. If it isn't my invalid little brother and his bought bride. I turned to see a man who looked like a bloated, uglier version of Richard. This was Arthur, Richard's estranged older brother. He had been kicked out of the family years ago for gambling and debauchery, and he had made it his life's mission to torment Richard. Arthur, Richard said, his voice tightening. Let us pass. Arthur stepped closer, ignoring Richard and leering at me. You must be the country bumpkin. You're prettier than they said. A shame you're wasted on a cripple who can't even satisfy you in bed. He reached out, his sausage-like fingers aiming for my chin. Why don't you come with me, sweetheart? I can show you what a real man feels like. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't just the insult to me. It was the way Richard flinched, the shame that washed over his face. I didn't think. I acted. I grabbed Arthur's outstretched finger and bent it back. Hard. He screamed. A real man. I asked, my voice dropping an octave, forgetting my falsetto. A real man doesn't bully his sick brother. A real man doesn't insult a lady in the street. I punched him. Right in the nose. Arthur went down like a sack of potatoes, blood gushing. The market went silent. You hit me, Arthur wailed, clutching his face. I'll have you arrested. I'll sue. And he did. An hour later, we were kneeling in the magistrate's court. Arthur was there, his nose bandaged, wailing about how the savage bride had assaulted him. The old madam had arrived, looking torn between protecting her family name and her lingering affection for her firstborn son. He insulted my husband. I declared to the magistrate, keeping my head high. He called him a cripple. He said my husband would be dead soon and that I should warm his bed instead. I may be from the country, Your Honor, but I know loyalty. I know shame. I would rather die than let anyone speak ill of Richard. I squeezed out a few tears for effect. If defending my husband's honor is a crime, then punish me. But I do not regret it. The crowd outside the court murmured in approval. The magistrate, a man known for his devotion to his own wife, looked moved. The violence was excessive. The magistrate ruled, eyeing Arthur with distaste. But the provocation was severe. Case dismissed. And you, Master Arthur, keep your distance from the Goo family. As we walked out, Richard took my hand. His grip was tighter than usual. You fought for me, he whispered, sounding awestruck. No one has ever fought for me. He was a jerk, I said, shrugging. He deserved worse. You are incredible, he said. And the look in his eyes, it wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was adoration. That night, the atmosphere in the bedroom changed. Richard didn't go to the divan. He sat on the bed, watching me take off my outer robe. Lucas, he said. I froze. He hadn't called me Madam or Lily. He had said a name I had never told him. What? What did you say? I heard you muttering in your sleep, he said, standing up and walking toward me. You call yourself Lucas. You speak of a world with glowing screens and metal birds. You aren't Lily Miller, are you? My heart hammered against my ribs. Richard, I don't care who you are, he interrupted, stopping inches from me. I only know that since you arrived, I have laughed more than I have in 20 years. I know that you defended me when my own blood would not. He reached out, his hand cupping my cheek. His thumb brushed over my lip. I know you are a man, he whispered. The air left my lungs. You know, I'm not blind, he smiled, a sad, sweet smile. The way you walk. The way you talk when you forget yourself. The lack of certain attributes. And you're okay with that? I asked, bewildered. I'm a fraud. I'm a guy. I am also a man, Richard replied simply. And I am dying. Do you think I care about conventions? I care about the soul that is currently making my heart beat faster than it should. He leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. Can I kiss you, Lucas? I should have pushed him away. I should have told him about the system. But looking into those Taowa eyes, drowning in the vulnerability there, I couldn't. Yes, I breathed. He kissed me. It wasn't forceful. It was desperate, like a drowning man finding air. His lips were soft, his body warm against mine. I wrapped my arms around his waist, pulling him closer, careful of his fragility, but needing to feel him solid against me. Whatever mission I had, whatever the plot of the book was, it didn't matter in that moment. We didn't go all the way, his health wouldn't allow it, and frankly, I was still processing the shift in our dynamic, but we slept in each other's arms. For the first time, Richard slept through the night without coughing. The next few months were the happiest of my life. Richard's health improved miraculously. The doctor said it was the joy I brought. We were inseparable. But every story has a climax. Agatha, bitter and vengeful, conspired with Arthur. She lured me to the garden lake one afternoon under the pretense that Richard had collapsed there. When I arrived, the garden was empty. Then, hands shoved me from behind. I fell into the freezing water. The shock seized my muscles. My heavy robes dragged me down. I thrashed, gasping for air, swallowing muddy water. Help! I screamed. Splash. Another body hit the water. Richard. He had followed me. But Richard couldn't swim. He was too weak. Richard, no. I choked out, grabbing him as he sank. He was dead weight, his face pale, eyes rolling back. Adrenaline surged through me. I kicked, dragging us both toward the bank. My lungs burned. I hauled him onto the grass and collapsed, coughing up water. Richard, I slapped his face. Wake up. Don't you dare die on me. He didn't move. I started CPR, pressing on his fragile chest, breathing into his mouth. 1, 2, 3, breathe. Come on, come on. Finally, he gasped. A ragged, horrible sound, but the best sound I'd ever heard. He coughed, water spilling from his lips, and opened his eyes. He wheezed. You jumped. You jumped. I yelled at him, tears streaming down my face. You idiot. You can't swim. I thought. I lost you. He whispered, shivering violently. I pulled him into my arms, rocking him as the servants finally arrived, screaming in panic. The aftermath was swift. Agatha was interrogated. She cracked under pressure and named Arthur. The old madam, finally seeing the truth, banished Agatha and used her influence to crush Arthur's business, driving him out of the city for good. But the peace didn't last. A week later, my parents, the Millers, showed up. And they brought Lily and Julian with them. They wanted money. They threatened to expose the fraud if Richard didn't pay up. We sat in the main hall. The Millers were smug. Lily looked ashamed, kneeling on the floor with Julian. He's a man. Mr. Miller shouted, pointing at me. A fraud. An abomination. We demand 10,000 silver taels, or we tell the whole city. Richard sat in his chair, pale but regal. He held my hand openly. I know, Richard said calmly. The Millers dropped their jaws. You know, I have known for a long time, Richard lied smoothly. I prefer him. Lily abandoned her duty. Lucas saved me. He is my wife in every way that matters. He signaled the guards. Give them 500 taels and throw them out. If they return, break their legs. As they were dragged away, Lily looked back at me, mouthing a tearful thank you. I watched them go, feeling a strange lightness. The system chimed in my head. Mission complete. The original protagonists are safe and together. The secondary male lead has survived his fated death date. Host may now depart. I froze. Depart? Now. Yes. You will be ejected from this body in 24 hours. Lucas Miller's body will die of a sudden heart failure, mimicking the original plot's tragedy. No, I whispered. I can't leave him. But the system wasn't asking. That night, I tried to explain it to Richard. I told him about my world, about the mission, about having to leave. He listened, his face growing paler with every word. You're leaving me? He asked, his voice breaking. Because of a system? I don't have a choice, I cried. It's taking me back. Take me with you, he begged, gripping my shirt. I don't care where. I can't go back to the darkness, Lucas. You are my son. I can't, I sobbed. I can't. We spent the night holding each other, memorizing every line of each other's faces. As dawn broke, I felt the pull. My chest tightened. The heart attack was starting. I love you. I gasped, my vision blurring. Richard, I love you. Lucas, he screamed, his voice the last thing I heard before the world went black. I woke up in a hospital bed. Beeping machines. The smell of antiseptic. He's awake, a nurse shouted. Doctor, the patient in 304 is awake. It's a miracle. The tumor. The latest skin shows it's shrinking. I was back. I was alive. And I was alone. I spent a year in recovery. My health returned, but my heart remained hollow. I missed him. I missed the smell of sandalwood incense, the rustle of silk, the sound of his laugh. I missed Richard. One day, the system's voice returned. Bonus round available, it droned. Host has accumulated sufficient regret points from the secondary male lead. Would you like to redeem a return ticket? Yes. I screamed, startling my cat, Buster. Yes, send me back. Conditions applied, the system said. You cannot return as Lucas Miller. He is dead. You will enter a new identity. I don't care. Just send me to him. Epilogue. The Goo Manor was quieter these days. The young master, now the head of the house, was a formidable man. He had expanded the family business, crushed his enemies, and was known for his cold, ruthless efficiency. He never remarried. He spent his evenings in the garden, staring at the moon. Master, Polly approached cautiously. The new cook has arrived. He insists on presenting the dinner personally. Richard waved a hand dismissively. I have no appetite. He says the dish is called spicy fried chicken from Kentucky, Polly said, looking confused. Richard froze. He turned slowly. Send him in. A young man walked in. He was dressed in simple chef's robes, carrying a tray. He looked nothing like Lucas Miller. He was shorter, stockier, with a round, cheerful face. But when he looked up, the eyes were the same. The mischief, the love, the soul. Hello, husband, the cook said, grinning. My name is Sonny. I hear you're looking for a joy-bringer. Richard stood up, his chair clattering to the floor. He walked over, his hands trembling as he reached out to touch the cook's face. You're late, Richard whispered, tears spilling over. Traffic was murder, Sonny replied. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Richard pulled him into a crushing kiss, right there in front of the scandalized servants. Welcome home, Richard breathed against his lips. It's good to be back, I said. And this time, we had a lifetime ahead of us.